Hi, my name is Genndy Tartakovsky, and I'm here to talk about all my different creations, shows, and my new movie, Fix.
Awesome. So we'll start by drawing Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory.
All right.
And I want to ask, as someone who has such a varied body of work from Dexter, Samurai Jack, Star Wars, Hotel Transylvania, where do you think Fixed kind of fits into that body of work? Because it feels like, pretty different content-wise.
Yeah, for sure. I think it falls in, like you said, because it's so different, it does fall in its own kind of category. And because it is adult, very adult, it definitely separates itself. And so I guess, I was going to say it's like maybe between Primal and Dexter, but that's not really fair. Like it's too kind of specific. It's actually probably the more accurate way is it's everything that I loved in animation, but bringing it to be modern and contemporary, and but still using the same techniques that they were using in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to dive into that idea of everything that you loved in animation. What is it about? What of that did you bring to Fixed?
So I love very physical animation, right, and very expressive animation, and so basically cartoony animation or caricatured animation, and so not necessarily like the big buggy eye takes and stuff like that. But more, I guess it's more of a nerdy animation thing that I loved about those old Warner Brothers and Tex Avery cartoons, is all the very specific character animation in it, and because the movement wasn't realistic. That's the thing. I think that's what I fell in love with, that it was very specific to the characters and what the animator could draw, and I think that's what made me fall in love. And so when I started doing animation, and when people laugh at a movement that you created from nothing, that was like, I'm hooked. It's like me doing stand-up on stage, right, without having any of the pressure and all that stuff. I could do the stand-up through the movement that I create.
Yeah, and I know that this was that Fixed is a passion project for you. It's been in development for what I think you conceptualized it in 2009. What is it about this project that makes you feel so deeply about it? Makes you want to pursue it over all this time?
Well, I think it's because it started from like I had I still have a group of high school friends that we're best friends till today, and like any group of old friends, they make you laugh like nobody else can, right? And I love all the characters of my friends. And so one day I was thinking, wow, can I translate their personalities into animation and into a movie? And I would heighten them so that everybody thinks they're funny. Almost like a Seinfeld idea. Like there are 4 very specific characters that everybody can laugh at. Right? So this was kind of a similar thing. I'm like, all right, well, how can I do that? And then, so the movie initially was called Buds, just about friends, right, buddies. And then I took it to Sony and I pitched it, and they liked it. They kind of got it, and it was adults. That was, this was 2008, and so back then, adult feature animation was pretty much non-existent, as it is still today, basically. And so I pitched it, and she goes, I see what you're going for, but you still need a concept, right? And then it's one of those things that doesn't happen much, and there's like a creative lightning struck me, or the animation gods were watching over me, or whatever, and the idea came to me right there. And then I said, oh, what if it's a dog, and he finds out he's going to get neutered in the morning? The whole room laughs, and that was it, and that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, everyone I've told that concept to has been like, that's hysterical.
Yeah.
No, it's a great hook. Also, I just want to appreciate, I love him. He's such a diva. Mine is more of unfortunately a little bit of a blob.
Right.
I totally messed up on the glasses, but yeah,
I like it.
I love him. We'll go to the next one.
You want me to sign it for you?
Yeah, look at that.
That means
there he is. It's legit. It's legit. And then next.
Nobody could do a squiggle.
Nobody can do a squiggle like that.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the journey that this film has had, because it at one point was almost shelved or
Yeah.
by Warner Brothers. And then can you, I guess, tell me about that process and then how it feels when a project that is on the chopping block, gets this second chance?
Yeah, we were doing it through New Line actually,
Yes.
which was part of Warner Brothers, and so they bought it. They got it right, and so we've been trying to sell it for probably 10 years, right? And nobody kind of understood what we were trying to do, which was fine. But then New Line understood it. It was through their rated R division, comedy, and they were looking for an adult animated comedy. And I'm like, do I have the thing for you? and so we made it. It was a great process making it. Everybody was on board. Everybody understood. And so the process of making it was great. There was no problems. We finished it in October of 2023.
Oh, wow.
And they were going to release it. And then about 2 months later, I get a phone call saying, like, Genndy, they're gonna not release it. But luckily, because they liked me and they liked the movie, they saved it from its being shelved, basically. And so they gave it back to Sony, and then Sony didn't want to release it either. And then they tried to sell it. And then basically we spent all of 2024 trying to sell it. And even in January, Netflix passed on it. That's the crazy part.
This
Right.
January or January 2024?
January 2024. January 2024. And they passed on it, and then I was like, so what you were saying, how does that affect you? I've never had anything like that happen to me before, right? And so after about 6 months of nobody buying it, you start to think, like, what did I do wrong? Did I make a movie that's unwatchable? Could that be it? And but then, so that went on, and it eats away at your confidence, right? And so that's kind of all I have, is after making shows and movies for over 30 years, you kind of start to believe in, okay, my instinct is kind of right. It's gotten me this far, except for this. And then all of a sudden in January of 2025 of this year, I get a phone call and they're like, hey, Netflix wants to release Fixed. And I was like, what? But they passed on it. So I don't know what happened in last year, January, but in this year, January, there's this guy, John Didarian, who's the kind of head of adult series animation at Netflix. He loved it, and he basically championed it through the company, and then people then totally got it, and here we are. So it was, it was probably one of the saddest years I had, just because it was, it was at its end, and I wasn't sure if anybody was going to see it, and I was so proud of, like, besides the story and the characters, I just love the animation, right? And I was so sad for the animators that they're never going to see their work be seen by the public. That was really the crushing part of it, because I'm such an animation nerd and fan that I just didn't want this. I wanted this to be seen, because nobody does animation like this anymore.
I want to ask, because I think that there have been similar sagas with a lot of other animated movies or partly animated movies. Like there was the Scoob movie that got axed by Warner Brothers, and then Coyote versus Acme, which it got resurrected and also bought. So I guess, could you tell me a little bit about what it's been like watching all of these projects deal with similar things, like in an industry when you're also going through that?
It's it's rough, yeah, because you're like thinking like, oh yeah, I'm just going to be just shelved, and like like the Batgirl movie, Scoob, whatever, and maybe in a few years it'll find its place. But the one thing about it that was different was Sony was supporting it. They go, don't worry, they weren't like, yeah, we don't get this, we're just going to not even try. They were trying to sell it, and so that gave me some hope. And even I volunteered. I go, listen, I'll spend my own money, I'll rent a theater, we'll run it for a few months. If we don't see a surge of public and the word getting out, then I'll admit defeat, but at least we can try. And they're like, don't worry, we'll figure it out, it's gonna happen. And so they were really supportive.
Incredible.
So that made it a little bit easier.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a moment to admire.
There's Jack.
He's beautiful. I attempted to
How'd you do?
The arms got totally messed up. I attempted, and then I was like, no, but I was also, I was so angry about the state of animation. So I was like, the arms are gonna get so screwed up. And then finally we'll move on to Bull.
Bull, yes.
Oh, there he is in all his glory. And I have to ask, we can't talk about Fixed without talking about the anatomy, because, you know, we're seeing full-on dog butts and balls just everywhere. That's, you know, a huge part of the movie.
Yes.
So how do you negotiate what is allowed to be on screen, if that makes sense? Like, where do you toe the line? Or were you always like, we have to have all these in here?
Well, I mean, because it's a rated R movie,
Yeah.
and it's for adults, we definitely knew that it was going to be in there. And now the question was, well, how much is it going to be in there? We just started drawing.
Yeah.
Because I really believe in drawing.
Yeah.
And everything's going to be right if I draw it, right? And if I figure it out. And so we just started drawing butts and buttholes. And my general taste sensibility is nice. Like, I don't like things too gross, right? And so I trusted my taste, right? And so for the first act screening, everybody's like, we had a 15-minute discussion of, wow, there's so many butts and buttholes, you know. But they were laughing about it, and nobody knew if that's a good thing, a bad thing, and I said, I go, look, my grand theory in this whole thing is that once you see it, it's going to be shocking, but then you settle in and you accept, like, oh, okay, this is that movie. It's going to have this stuff. And listen, the butthole in our movie is a circle with a little cross in it, and that's it. So it's so unassuming. We could make it really gross, you know, with all the wrinkles. Like, you know, we know how to do that, but that's not the choice we made. We made it to be just kind of like, oh, there it is, and you don't think about it. And by the way, like, when people are grossed out by it, I'm like, you can walk on the street and you can see a dog's butt all the time.
They're out there.
They're out there.
I
Exactly.
mean, people were clamoring for, like, the butthole cut of cats. I don't know if you're aware of that. And
I'm
like,
not aware of that.
Well, apparently, you know, they had anatomically correct cat stuff in that movie, and people were like, oh, we want this. And I'm like, well, now, you know, you can have it here. But I guess I also want to know, you were talking about animation as comedy, as like having all these little physical punchlines. Is there a section of Fix that especially kind of encapsulated that for you?
I mean, I think generally, because we did have, you know, quite a bit of dialogue, we wanted the dialogue to be...
Sorry, I made a mistake. Okay.
We wanted the dialogue to be very expressive, right, and cartoony. And so we designed the characters so they could have big mouths and little mouths and completely pliable, so the anatomy isn't as important in a way. But then the rule that we followed is there's no hand gestures. The dogs act like dogs, even though they can talk. So that kind of grounded it. You know, they can't walk on twos. They have to pretty much kind of be like dogs.
Was there a particular dog that you were most excited to draw, either species-wise or that you thought was kind of the most expressive?
Well, I wanted to, of course, I have, back then I had 2 St. Bernards. And so I wanted to draw St. Bernards because it's the dogs you have. Yeah. And before my St. Bernards, we had English Mastiffs. So we had big dogs.
Yeah.
So we really wanted
and like
to...
jowly,
oh,
right?
Yeah. Jowly, drippy, right? Drooly dogs. And so I really wanted to draw them. But yeah, but generally all dogs are fun to draw. And Craig Kelman, who is our character designer, he draws dogs so great that we just kind of, you know, followed suit the way he was drawing them.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, obviously the movie, I mean, even just looking at the trailer, you know, there is a level of crassness, but also there's like a lot of heart to it. Like it is, you know, very much about friends and about Bull wanting to find love. So can you tell me about balancing, you know, the cruder elements of the comedy with like these pretty touching, you know, stories of connection?
Yeah, and that is the hardest part of it, because you in a movie with balls and buttholes and this kind of more raunchy humor, how do you fit in heart that's believable? And that's really the hardest thing to do about heart, is make it sincere. Like, we could all write in the movie like, oh, I love you, and that's it, you know. But I hate that, because then you don't buy it, right? So you have to somehow earn it, and that's really the hardest thing. The hardest thing is to make somebody laugh, right? And then I would say the second hardest thing is to make somebody feel, right? And so to me, that's about sincerity. And so I tried to be as sincere as we possibly could, and I think the music helps a lot because it's like the 70s, you know, R&B soul type stuff that I love, that's endearing to me, and I feel like it has a warmth to it, right? So it helps us along. And because we're real in our storytelling and we're not pandering to anybody or any age group or anything, I hope that it sells and it's believable, and yeah, but I mean, you're recognizing it, so it's nice. And
yeah, I do. After that lovely, heartfelt answer, I do briefly have to come back to the balls, because I think that it was that at like the Annecy Festival a few years ago, you showed like a 3D rendering of it, and you were like, it's too much. But can you tell me about that period in time of the film's development where you were maybe experimenting with that?
Yeah, well, I was desperate.
Yeah.
Right, and so I thought, well, maybe what's holding it back is that I'm trying to sell it as a 2D movie, because like, you know, I have everything stacked. There's Bull. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Mine is very scared. He just found out.
Yes, that's about right. Yeah.
Sorry.
And so back then, I'm trying to sell it, and sometimes it's hard to sell process and story. So I've got a rated R movie, which is nobody's doing. Then I've got a 2D animated movie, which back then nobody's doing. And so what do I have that's commercial, right? And you realize, well, I just have dogs. They're kind of commercial, but that's it. And so I go, well, okay, maybe I'll try to change my process and have it be in CG, what everybody's already used to looking. And so, yeah, we designed a CG bull just to see how it's going to look. And we put balls on him. And it's disgusting, you know? And because then you're like, well, how much hair does he have? You start really thinking about it because you zoom in on it, and that's it, you know? But in 2D, it's just like, yeah, you know, that's it. And then you move on. Yeah. You don't think about it at all. You're not, you know, it's done. Yeah. Right?
And I imagine the physics change a little bit in 3D.
Yeah, and are we putting real dynamics?
Yeah, exactly.
So they're going to bounce around?
What are the physics? Yeah.
Yeah, how heavy is it?
Yeah.
So when we got into it, it's like, yeah, this is the wrong decision completely. And to force somebody to model all that was just felt weird. And then, you know, not to get too rated R about the whole thing, in CG also, where does the penis go? Right, because in the movie we don't show any penis. I feel like that was drawing, you know, crossing the line. Yeah. Right, and so we hid it, and in drawings you can hide it easily, right? But in CG it would have to be there, and then we would have constantly trying to create angles to hide it, because then if it's not there and if people see it, they're gonna be like, where is it at?
Where is it? Yeah.
Anyways, so with all that, we knew it was the wrong choice.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I'm very excited for everyone to get to meet Bull and go on his crazy odyssey with everyone. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Watch Fixed on Netflix.
Yes.